Weather Today from the Weather Channel. New episodes every day, only on Quibi.
Yes, it is, and we've got the beautiful colors in the sky here in Huntsville, Alabama. You see the, reds, the yellows, the orange, blue, all radiating. Showers and rain moving in tonight into tomorrow. So those are some of the clouds coming ahead of our system that's moving. And Huntsville is home to the University of Alabama Huntsville, which has one of two Division I hockey teams located in the Sun Belt. I remember when hockey came to South Florida with the Panthers, ice hockey, and it's like very confusing as a little kid,
right?
Like Florida, and you're like, huh?
Yeah, you're like, ice?
Yeah. Now, a place where there's definitely a lot of hockey, that is Michigan. Good morning to Grand Haven, located on the eastern shores of Lake Michigan. Two lighthouses on the South Pier. It also has a large, electronically controlled musical fountain. Those are always fun, like in Vegas. It's basically Vegas. Jen, when I was younger, my dad used to, now it's a lot easier to do. As the lighthouse is going around, you want to get the picture when the light is shining at you.
Right.
And so we'd sit there for I don't know how long with these lighthouses and light going around. Did you get it? I don't know. Got to do it just in case.
And be right, because you've got film that you're not going to find out, for a week or more until you develop it.
And he did nail it, I will say. It was when we were on the West Coast. He nailed it with this one great lighthouse. But anyways,
awesome.
Now you have digital. You don't have to worry about
I know.
sitting there and
I've
hoping.
tried telling the kids about that. Like, it used to be that you couldn't take a million pictures to get the one you want, and then delete. You had one, and maybe it was good and maybe it wasn't, right? Oh, the days. Well, no, I got them the instant cameras now, which they're having a lot of fun with. All right, let's take a look at the rainfall on the roads. We've got a new flash flood warning. This one noses into Mississippi. You can see all this rain coming in here. So we are concerned about the flash flooding risk, and I think that's not going to be the first one of today. Rainfall rates are heavy. You're traveling on I-20. The wipers are going. You're trying to find a speed somewhat faster than you probably have in your car because it's heavy rainfall. We see it in Jackson coming in later today. The morning is fine. Lunchtime is still pretty good, but a few showers as you get through the afternoon, and then the rain really comes down this evening. This is 9 o'clock. Look at this. This is the kind of rain where you don't have a speed fast enough on those wipers to keep those windshields clear. Jim.
All right. What a hurricane season we have had so far. Essentially from September 7th through the 22nd, we had 8 named storms, 23 total this year. 20 of them the earliest formation dates on record, according to the National Hurricane Center. The 8th named storm is usually around September 24th. We're 15 named storms ahead of pace right now. 9 named storms have made U.S. landfall. That ties 1916 for the most on record in a season. Equally mind-boggling are oddities that are occurring right now. So joining us live to talk about these is our host of Weather Geeks podcast, Dr. Marshall Shepard. All right, Doc, here we are into the Greek alphabet. We saw, Alpha come in to Portugal briefly. Beta has made landfall now. 2005 was the only other season where we actually had Greek alphabet names. What if one of these was big enough to retire? Would they retire the Greek alphabet name?
Yeah, I think Dennis Mercer, who's a colleague of mine at Forbes, wrote all about that. And there is a procedure, a little bit known to many, about the sort of how we retire, or how we would go about retiring a Greek letter alphabet name. So there is a process for that. So I would recommend that people Google Dennis Mercer's article in Forbes because he handled it. What I'm more interested in, because I don't know the answer to that, Jim, and I don't think we'd see it, is what happened if we went all the way through the Greek alphabet? Now, of course,
we're going to need another planet,
but
Doc. I think we're going to need another planet to live on.
I did.
Right?
Yeah, I did joke. Will we get hurricane pie on Thanksgiving this year? I don't know.
That's pretty good. So Alpha making landfall in all places, Portugal, which not really known for landfalls even without the Greek alphabet.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and that's just one of the strange things we saw in the past week or so. We had Alpha as a subtropical cyclone making landfall in Portugal. You just don't see that for various reasons, the meteorology, the ocean temperatures. And then we had Beta just kind of spinning around, hanging around down there in Texas, or off the coast of Texas, starting to move out now. But I've seen from the Weather Channel, 8 to 15 inches of rainfall and clearly flooding. So, and then of course we've got a storm headed to Nova Scotia right now, Jim. Teddy.
And it has a 520-mile wide tropical storm force wind field, albeit it's post-tropical in through here. So interesting, Beta, dangerous flooding in Houston. Is Beta a little reminiscent of Harvey, do you think?
It is, and I told friends in that area last weekend that this is going to be Harvey-esque. It's not going to be Harvey because we had significant rain rates for 5 or 6 days or so, but we knew that slow-moving or stalled storms like we see with Beta and like we saw with Sally are going to be flood producers. And as you know, Jim, that area is already flood prone for many different reasons. So it just reinforces that we don't need a big Cat 4 storm with a lot of ACE, accumulated cyclone energy, to cause problems.
Let's talk about this ACE, Doc, a little bit. This is something they measure the hurricanes by, both time and strength over that time. From the 7th through the 22nd, I think we had about 55% of our average seasonal ACE. Does this occur usually? Do we get pockets of big ACE? Is this what we would normally see in a hurricane season, or is it more spread out?
Yeah, it can be spread out, but ACE is basically measured by how strong the wind speeds are, because we take the square of the wind speed. So when you have major hurricanes, they have stronger winds, so you have a lot of ACE. So you can tend to see that later in the season. But I don't think it's always a good indicator of strength, because rainfall causes problems too.
Dr. Marshall Shepard, I was going to ask you if we're done with the season yet, but I don't dare. Always appreciate you guys. Love weather. We love weather.tv, or wherever you get your podcast. Check out Dr. Shepard.
These are 3 straight hours of big wrecks and wild weather. Don't miss Heavy Rescue right here on the Weather Channel.
Thank you for staying with us live here on AMHQ. I'm Justin Michaels. We actually moved locations to give you a better perspective on different flooding happening in the area. We moved from downtown to just south of Hobby Airport. So that's south of the city, right along the Beltway. And you can see this is a mess, folks. Take a look. Car after car after car, completely flooded out. And what is more interesting than that, these cars were not here yesterday. These cars showed up here this morning. These people drove into this water and their cars stalled out. Not just there, though. Take a look going back into some of these neighborhoods right off of the Beltway here, and you can see car after car after car. I can't vouch for how long these cars were here, but still, flooding is certainly a situation. Even though Beta is moving out, the bands are moving out. There's kind of a misty rain that's falling right now, has been all morning, but it's not the downpours we were seeing yesterday, bringing that total of 14 inches of rain coming here to the greater Houston area. So Jim, there it is, my friend. There is the poster child. Don't drive through floodwaters. Turn around, don't drown. Jim, into you.
Amazing. Of course, they had a 3-day rainfall record, 5th wettest 3-day total on record at Hobby. So you're not too far from that, Justin. Amazing, guys. Think about what's happened in the last 7 days on the Weather Channel. We've shown you both surge flooding, all right, where Steph was in Gulf Shores and where I was in Pensacola, and also freshwater flooding, which you're seeing there where Justin is, from rain coming out of the sky. So let's talk about Beta, which is now post-tropical, all right? It's near Liberty, Texas right now. Winds in Houston are actually out of the north, so, we're blowing stuff offshore as opposed to bringing deep moisture onshore. Still cloudy, wet. You saw the picture there. Beauregard, Calcasieu, Vernon, Parrish, all under flash flood warnings. It's this band right here. How about 1 to 3 inches per hour, all lifting onto the north? And this is all part of a tropical system. Just because it goes post-tropical, according to an NHC advisory, doesn't mean we're done with it. All right, we still have all this moisture to deal with. And we'll watch this axis of heavy moisture over the next couple of days work its way through Mississippi tonight, Alabama tomorrow, northern Georgia, as the low finally gets pulled off to the northeast. Now, also going post-tropical is Teddy. All right, it's lost its tropical characteristics. All of its wind field has spread out from the center, and spread out it has. Try, 1,000 miles in circumference of tropical storm force winds. incredible here, encompassing all of Halifax, all of southeast Canada, all of Newfoundland, all the way out to St. John's. That's a phenomenal wind field. And you're talking about waves here that are 30 to 45 feet as associated with this that are moving on through the north. So what happens from this point on, guys? We actually get a little break in the tropics. Does anything happen here with this little system that the European is showing? Maybe, maybe not. None of the guidance really does anything with it. But we will start to transition out of the MDR a little bit over into the Western Caribbean, which is kind of where we start the season, right? The Gulf of Mexico into the Western Caribbean as we head toward the end of the month and on into October. And sometimes we get a secondary maxima because of systems that develop here. And as a matter of fact, NOAA has already highlighted this area as a potential hazard for tropical development late in the month into early October. So are we done in the United States? Maybe, maybe not. Steph.
Well, today is the first full day of fall, and just look at the blaze of brilliant colors in far northern Vermont. This is near Newport, which is very close to the Canadian border with Quebec. Leaves reaching peak performance. And this is stunning with the, the road and the clouds. And I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal here into Vermont. Let's have a look at where we are seeing those colors right now. And I've got to tell you, obviously, we're a little past patchy, as you can see in like Ogden, Utah, right? In Breckenridge, you see aspens there giving us that vibrant yellow color. So higher elevations and up here on the northeast where it's a little bit cooler and also where it's been actually quite dry, that also helps the color leaves change as well. Now, every morning at 50 past the hour, we're going to share a little wisdom by answering your questions about the weather. Today's comes from Matthew, and Matthew says, what are the optimal weather factors that lead to the perfect fall foliage conditions? Well, meteorologist and fall aficionado Jim Cantore explains the science behind leaves changing color.
Let's talk about the process here. Green leaves dominate the spring and summer because of the chlorophyll in the leaves. And that chlorophyll is produced by a process called photosynthesis. This process requires three things: sunlight, water, and believe it or not, carbon dioxide. Trees breathe in a lot of carbon dioxide. And those three things help to create the sugars that give the tree energy. All right. Now, one of the byproducts of this process is actually oxygen. 21% of the air that we breathe is actually from deciduous trees. Awesome. All right. So the calendar's going along. Here we are. May, June 21st, everybody's, yay, it's the first day of summer. June 22nd, the tree knows that there's going to be less sunlight. So as that daylight begins to break down, so does the color in the leaves. And as it fades away, the true colors of the leaves begins to come on out. And there are three main pigments that make up especially a maple leaf. All right, so let's talk about this. Xanthophylls, think of corn, yolks and eggs, that's yellow. Carotenoids, that is the orange color, think of carrots. And anthocyanins, think of apples. And you get combinations of these colors. Sometimes the tree will turn all three depending on the type of maple. But it is those colors that come out as this chlorophyll begins to break on down. And of course, the weather plays a key role in all of this. It is the warm, sunny days and the cool, crisp nights leading up to the peak time that gives us the effective breakdown of the sugar production and thus the brilliant fall colors.
Well, send us your questions on social media, either tagging AMHQ or using the hashtag WeatherWisdom. And we'll answer them every day at 50 past the hour. All right, we're going to take you now down into Lauderdale, Florida. You're looking beautiful this morning. Will it stay that way? Even today as well. We did see rainfall over 15 inches near State Highway 288 south of Houston. Good morning. Welcome into AMHQ. I'm meteorologist Stephanie Abrams alongside meteorologist Jim Cantore and Jen Carfagno as we track all this rain into the southeast. We also have meteorologist Justin Michaels, who will be joining us live from Houston in just a few minutes to show us what the roads look like, because this is what it looked like in Harris County yesterday. You see the amphibious vehicles. How much has that water gone down? Stay tuned, because Justin will show us how high it was and where it is now. Harris County judge urging people to stay off the roads until it recedes this afternoon. The good news is, Jim, it is starting to go down fairly quickly this morning in a lot of areas.
In a lot of areas. But isn't that interesting? Within a week, we have seen surge flooding and freshwater flooding.
Yeah, we have.
Okay, from two different tropical cyclones. Let's talk about this, because we're not done with the flooding yet, and we're talking about freshwater flooding, because we're going to be seeing kind of a merger, if you will, of this kind of northeast to southwest band and this little band that's coming in here. Does this all come up and meet over Monroe or Vicksburg or even Jackson or Greenville in Mississippi. These are all very, very distinct possibilities here. Lots of water with this. It's all being driven, by the way, with an upper system that is slowly oozing its way down through Oklahoma. And that's going to carry all this east. And Steph's going to, and Jen are going to talk about how this moves east over the next couple of days. But we're following this 1 to 3 inch per hour rain band moving out now up into Hardin, Jasper, and Tyler counties. Again, this is an area that was devastated by Laura in western Louisiana. Tremendous amounts of timber here, which are down. And think about it, those trees would normally be absorbing that water, taking it in through the roots very readily. But a lot of that timber's gone. So we're going to have flooding in a lot of these areas. So the eastern extent of this, Beauregard, Calcasieu, and Vernon parishes dealing with this, really the heaviest part of that band at the present time. Now, Baton Rouge, keep an eye on this stuff down to the south of Morgan City. This is all building north to you. It's already raining in Baton Rouge, but now you're taking heavier rain, putting it on top of, obviously a metropolitan area and a lot of asphalt and concrete, and that means a chance to flash flood pretty quickly here. Memphis is into the rain. Nashville, not at the moment. It's raining in Bowling Green, but you can see how wet this I-40 trek is for you from Nashville all the way back to Little Rock. So you kind of get the idea of what the Weather Prediction Center is looking at as going to be the high risk today for flooding. We've already got flood warnings. I'd be shocked if we didn't see more. All right, so this is actually decent initiation, believe it or not, out of the high res, out of the HER here at 9 o'clock. Watch what it does. It kind of takes this right up through Alexandria, Monroe, in toward Vicksburg, Jackson. Now here we are at night. Now you've got overnight heavy water, high water, and through here some of the streams and creeks. We'll probably have flood warnings with this. Then it moves again during the overnight hours very slowly across Mississippi into Alabama. Again, Jen, tomorrow wouldn't surprise me if we even had more flood warnings.
Yeah, for sure. Mississippi, Alabama. Then where does it go after that? Well, in a city like Atlanta, it's clear and dry for now, looking good. Winston-Salem, you're looking great, but you are in line for downpours at the end of the week. They could impact the start of the Braves' last home series of the regular season with the Red Sox. Congrats, Braves fans. You are NL East champs for the 3rd straight year. But for now, I mean, the weather has just been amazing. Cool, crisp morning, beautiful afternoon. I ran outside yesterday.
The 5th straight day of phenomenal weather here throughout a big chunk of the South. That's changing, however, though, because we have what's left of beta that will be going through the South. 3 to 5 inches of rain, mainly into Louisiana, Mississippi, and into Arkansas as well. So this is what it will look like on the radar. Of course, the clouds will come in first. We've already seen those into places like Huntsville and Birmingham. And then the showers for our Thursday. Then by Friday, really, this is all going to be scattered. It even lingers into our Saturday. But truth is, really, tomorrow is going to be the last big day of that rain that will be coming down for us here. Now, there is the threat for flooding because you're going to have a slow-moving just blob of tropical moisture left over, and so there's lots to squeeze out. Now, the other issue is remember, we just had Sally make landfall here into Gulf Shores, Alabama, and made its way through the South. Remember all the rain in Atlanta, trees were coming down and whatnot? Well, you're going to throw rain on top of that, and so, you just really have to be careful. It's going to be 1 to 2 inches, but still, if it's already saturated ground, just a little bit of wind could take down trees. Now, we do have the threat for some storms. Our Torcon values are low, but there is still a threat, and all it takes is one big thunderstorm over your house. Friday, showers move east. Again, we're going to be losing that rain along its path. Saturday, very light, scattered, lingering storm. So at least Mother Nature got it right. Finally, we get the rain during the week, Jim, and then on the weekend, it's going to be clearing out.
Yeah, but you know what? Do we get hot? We may be done with the 90s. We'll see. In Atlanta and Birmingham for the year. Houston Metro underwater, double-digit rainfall, fueling dangerous flash flooding. People paddling canoes down the street, entire neighborhoods under high water, flooding out vehicles and homes. Hobby Airport with its 5th wettest 3-day rainfall on record. So you're talking about over a foot of rain in those 3 days. And of course, that has resulted in more flooding even this morning, where we still have high water. Joining us live from Houston, which is where we find some of that high water, is Justin Michaels. Justin, how was the flooding yesterday compared to what you're seeing this morning? And I didn't get a chance to ask you this last time. How many cars are just sitting out there in that water?
Well, yeah, Jim, so we got this Lexus over here, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars, it looks like, just in this flooded out area. And it's important to note, I don't know what that truck is doing, but what he's doing is exactly what you shouldn't be doing, regardless of whether you're in a truck that big or not. So here comes a tractor trailer through the floodwaters, not wise. But this is all from this morning, folks. These cars were not here and stranded overnight. They were actually, in fact, guys, I think we need to move a little bit because he's going to create a wake and we're going to get drenched. So yeah, this is not good. But anyway, back to Jim's question. These cars were not here last night. They actually came through this morning as people were trying to navigate these floodwaters. They did not turn around and did not drown. They drove right through it. So now their cars are stalled out. Oh, there we go. Let's talk to Jeff Lindner with Harris County Flood Control. He's a meteorologist. Jeff, hey, thanks for being with us, dealing with a little bit of a tractor trailer making some poor decisions here. So tell me, sir, as this city has gone through the last 24 hours dealing with beta, flooding rains, the bayous were coming up, they're going down now. From your meteorological perspective, Jeff, tell us, how is the city right now and how soon until things might get back to normal?
Yeah, we still, as you're showing right there, we still have some flooding on the roadways and along Clear Creek, a little bit just to your south of where you are along the Galveston-Harris-Missouri County line. We do still have flooding along the creek. That is going down, and so we should see that subside today. And most of the water should drain off today as the rainfall has ended, and we will start to get back to more normal conditions. Can't rule out some low spots in areas that hold water for a little bit longer, that we will typically see that. But especially down there in the southern part of the county, where, like y'all mentioned, we had anywhere from a foot of rain to even as much as 15 inches near Brookside Village.
Now, Jeff, I know that you guys can learn a lot from these types of flooding events, the type of rain that came through from Beta. We saw some of your teams out with what was really basically a drone that was floating on the Buffalo Bayou yesterday collecting data. What do you learn from flooding situations like this?
Yeah, so we deployed numerous teams yesterday. One set of teams was just reconnaissance teams that went out and took photos and documented the situation so we could see how our bayous and creeks are working, how our detention basins are working, and then where we had flooding and potentially structure flooding. And then we had a second set of teams that went out and took what we call discharge or flow measurements, and that's the volume of water that is passing through the creek and the bayou at a certain time. And that goes into the forecast models to help determine how much the bayou is going to rise or fall further downstream. So we work closely with the National Weather Service and the West Gulf River Forecast Center to get them that data so we can have really good forecast as well as our own internal forecasting system.
So we're getting, they were actually getting real-time data to better understand how the flow was happening and how much the water was going to drop. Is that what you're talking about? Just to understand the entire flooding situation better in real time?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly. They were collecting that in real time with that boat device that they drag across the channel from bank to bank, and that determines how much flow. We know how high the water is. We have all of these remote gauges across our county, so we know the depth of the water and the elevation of the water, but we need to go out and collect that flow data or the volume of water that's passing through that site because forecast models understand what we call discharge or volume and not necessarily the height of the water. So it gets a little technical, but that's what we use that device for, is to collect that flow data.
And Jeff, tell me, since Harvey, did Harvey help you mitigate any of these issues? Was Beta handled better because of what you learned from Harvey?
Yeah, one of our success stories with Beta has been on Braze Bayou. This project, the project we call it Project Braze, has been going on for a couple of decades to widen and expand Braze Bayou, which is through the Fireland area, which was so devastated by not only Harvey, but the Tax Day and the Memorial Day floods we've had. And if you look at this area was also very heavily impacted by Tropical Storm Beta, and the bayou actually did not come out of its bank. We did not have any structure flooding along Braze Bayou and Meyerland. No impacts to the Texas Medical Center that has historically had flooding conditions. So we are starting to see some successes here with the infrastructure improvements that the Flood Control District and the Army Corps of Engineers are doing with our channels. There's still a lot more to do in this county. We have 22 watersheds, and that is a completion of one of them. So more work to be done, more funding needed to complete those projects, but we're starting to see the benefits of those projects here in the county.
Meteorologist Jeff Lindner, Harris County Flood Control. We do appreciate the hard work of you and your team. Thank you for being with us here on AMHQ. And Jim, as I send it back to you at HQ there in Atlanta, it's really remarkable, Jim, how many cars, not just that truck, but how many trucks and other vehicles are trying to make it through these floodwaters. It is exactly what they should not be doing. turn around, don't drown. Jim, into you.
No, and mitigate all you want. Still, people drive through these floodwaters, which is sad, and through here, unfortunately, as a result of that. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's happening. Certainly, with another tropical system that is post-tropical. This one a little bit bigger. Though,
a lot
right,
bigger.
Jen?
Oh, Teddy, the wind field on Teddy is huge, and look at what it's doing. Still sending up these big waves. You're basically looking at the long arm of the storm, formerly known as Hurricane Teddy. Gusty winds, rough surf, large waves roughing up the shoreline at Marshfield, Massachusetts, some 400 miles from Teddy's center. So Teddy is now post-tropical, but it is taking aim at Nova Scotia, and even without tropical characteristics, it remains a dangerous storm. It's big. It's got a big wind field. That's what happens when you get these extratropical systems. Basically, it's like a nor'easter or a coastal storm, and you can see it spinning out here. We're still getting some of the winds up into parts of Maine, some clouds out there, but really overall the impacts are going to be with the waves still up for one more day and the wind in Nova Scotia. That's where we're going to really feel it today. Right now, we've got a center circulation wind at 65 miles per hour, but again, with an extratropical system, the wind field is really spread out. It's on a move, 23 miles per hour. It's moving away, which is good. It's going to head through Newfoundland, so be ready. You're going to get some winds there. The waves are still up a bit today on the eastern seaboard, but that is going to come down in the coming days. This is our last day dealing with these big waves out here along the coast. It takes a while for all that ocean energy to sort of dissipate, right? But anywhere, Massachusetts coast, Maine coast, even Rhode Island, you guys have had some pretty big waves. Now, we have high pressure. We have beautiful weather. Temperatures approaching 80 for the next couple of days. Maybe not quite there, but awfully close. It's a good stretch of weather. How long does this last? Well, let's take a look at things. I want to actually take you to Boston. We could use a little rain in Boston. I know you've been charmed by all this great weather that we've had, and we're going to keep it going for a couple more days. You can see right here, we've got temperatures that are going to stay in the 70s. The sunshine stays out this weekend, but we are about 9 inches below average when it comes to rainfall. So the fact that finally on Monday we can get some rainfall, that's some good news. Hopefully it doesn't come with any problems, but that's it. It's a one-day thing only. Then we're right back to nice and back closer to average with temperatures into the 70s, and, well, the sun is back out again with no more rain in the forecast after that. Now, another spot which may get some rain today, but also is getting pretty hot, actually, Steph, the upper Midwest.
Let's take you here. We want to show you Minnesota. This is Duluth, Minnesota. Really a nice day to start the day. You see traffic flowing, no problem. Sun reflecting there on the water. What do you see, Jim? What are you seeing that I'm missing here?
It just looks like a lenticular. It's
yeah,
just
it
the
does
reflection.
look like
just the reflection.
It does. It looks like the lenticular cloud, which are the clouds, by the way, that they get stacked like this. They kind of look like UFOs. So Jim was like, oh, is that lenticular? But it's not. It's just the way the clouds and the sun and whatnot is. So let's have a look at what we are going to be dealing with here. We've been talking about how the leaves are starting to change here in the arrowhead of Minnesota, Jim, because it's been so dry, but we're thankfully getting a little bit of rain.
It's so dry. It had an early frost back in early September, so that certainly helped on out. And yeah, when you're a stress tree, you know when to shut down. Let's just put out the new buds and get ready for next year, okay? Close up shop. Now, we are going to have some rain, which is good news. Now, not everybody's going to get this, but if we do get severe thunderstorms, which is what this outlook is for, the threat's going to be for some damaging wind as this disturbance comes in from the west. You can see it here. Nice big short wave kind of curled up through Montana, heading through North Dakota and through. That's just going to continue to chug along. You can already see some thunderstorms here this morning. Those will more than likely weaken as they head into more stable air going in through the next couple of hours. So they may or may not make it in toward Devil's Lake. But let's go ahead and follow how this energy fires up as we go on through the afternoon. So here we are at 5 p.m., not showing much. We know the short wave's on the move, right? We know there's kind of a pseudo warm front sitting right through here. Now here we are at midnight. All right, there's no more sun out here it's been not out for several hours. So what we call is the low-level jet starts to increase. And that's going to bring up the moisture out ahead of this disturbance and create this nice layer of instability. So we'll see showers and thunderstorms break out and push across Moose Lake, Duluth. You could get a little early wake-up call here. I would imagine there's going to be some thunder with this, and then everything will kind of press on across the beautiful north woods of Wisconsin, also getting some beautiful fall colors at the present time. 73 Minneapolis tomorrow, 79 Chicago. Enjoy it. Nice warm day here. Steph, over to you.
Well, this morning on AMHQ, the disaster that did more agricultural damage in Louisiana than Katrina and Rita combined. Plus, former NASA astronaut Terry Virts spent 200 days on the International Space Station, and he now has a book to discuss how to astronaut, as he calls it. Do they do laundry in space? I gotta ask him that.
Of big wrecks and wild weather. Don't miss Heavy Rescue right here on the Weather Channel.
Hurricane season doesn't stop for a pandemic, and neither do we. Get the information you need to stay safe every day, right here on the Weather Channel.
Oh, look at that, huh? Australians awestruck, but not struck by lightning here. Mother Nature putting on a show with a double lightning and a double rainbow. It's actually maybe a triple, Jen. Co-starring.
Whoa.
I don't know.
Whoa.
The woman catching the strike actually cutting behind the rainbow on Monday from her back card. I guess just kind of catching a little shot there. That's the place you want to be, though, right? Inside, near a structure, catching all that. Can you imagine walking out your door and seeing that?
Is that the dark band? I love seeing that Alexander's dark band when you have a good double like this.
In between the bands, right?
Yeah, and the lighting, this is pretty spectacular.
And here's the deal, since Jen's about to do travel, and I know a lot of times we come upon these, just pull over if you're going to take some pictures, right?
I know, don't
Stop
try to do it while you're driving.
because I mean, they're going to distract you.
It's tempting too, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, today, nothing should distract you. We've got so much rain out there. It's literally like focus, two hands on the wheel, you know, not like one on the cup of coffee, the other trying to like adjust something on your phone. We have a look at a lot of rain out here. We got the moisture coming up, new flash flood warning. This came in here for southern Louisiana. We've been dealing with the heavy rain in Texas. Saw up in Arkansas that we've got some roads that are flooded here. So let's go into the forecast for today. A lot of rain. The red zone is areas where we might see some thunderstorms. All of it could be heavy at times, and so you worry about the rainfall rate driving the flash flooding concern. Look at Alexandria. Your wipers are going nonstop. Did you know that the person who invented the windshield wipers actually is a woman who couldn't drive, but she just noticed that you need to clear. Actually, it was snow that she noticed needed to be cleared up in New York. But wipers obviously needed for the rainfall here today. We're going to need that into Mississippi, eventually Alabama, but not just yet. That gets in overnight tonight. The rainfall heaviest in Louisiana with a couple of inches. Mississippi, we could actually get 3 inches of rain or more, and that's going to be a tough drive for you folks traveling on I-20 for today. And Jim, you know, Louisiana doesn't need anything else right now.
Really don't. Do you remember what year that was?
1902.
1902.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's a great story, Jen.
Yeah.
Timber, #1 agricultural product coming out of Louisiana. Nearly 14 million acres of the state covered by forest. You can imagine the devastation that winds from a Category 4 Hurricane Laura left on trees and other crops here. The big storm question is, what's the future of agriculture going to be like, especially the industry in Louisiana? Meteorologist Jackie Jarris looks at the astonishing $1.5 billion hit that farmers took.
This is what $1.6 billion worth of damage looks like, all because of Hurricane Laura. It's estimated the destruction to crops and forests in Louisiana from this storm rivals both Rita and Katrina in 2005.
If we compare to Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, those hurricanes had more flood damage associated with them. Laura, it was largely windspread. The land area affected by Hurricane Laura was about 800,000 acres in scope, and that land area is comparable to the entire state of Rhode Island.
It's a loss Louisiana can't afford.
The value of our food and fiber sector here in the state is anywhere from about $10 to $13 billion a year.
Some crops were saved, but with climate change, the future is uncertain.
Those trees themselves were damaged. There's a lot of debris in those forests from the downed trees. They're an attractant to insects. It's more of a wildfire risk. So if we get into a situation going into the next year and the years to come where there's higher summertime temperatures, those risks of disease and insects and fires are escalated in the impacted area.
It's a slow recovery process that the state's agricultural industry is in no shape to wait for, but it's something they're just going to have to deal with.
Producers do everything they can to try to make that production and revenue stream as consistent as they possibly can, understanding that there's going to be things outside their control. Certainly there are some tools, and certainly our producers are using those tools to the best of their ability to minimize that variability in production and revenue from year to year.
Even though this hurricane may have hit a more rural part of a rural state, think about it as having really heavily hit our breadbasket.
Louisiana is the nation's top producer of shrimp, oysters, and crawfish. The numbers aren't in yet, but Hurricane Laura's turbulent waters will surely take its toll on the seafood harvest and the state's fishing infrastructure. The seafood industry accounts for 1 out of 70 jobs in Louisiana and brings in $2.5 billion a year. And Steph, before we came back out of that package, we were talking about Laura will probably be a retired name.
Yeah, I would lean towards yes. Of course, the National Hurricane Center will make that decision. Okay, let's talk about what we will see when it comes to recovery here into Louisiana. And as we head into the weekend, Louisiana is actually looking really nice. The remnants of Beta will, however, be making its way deep into the south for our Thursday. Friday, just holding on. But then I got to tell you, as we get into our Saturday, things are looking a lot better. Saturday, by the way, Johnny Appleseed Day and Pancake Day. So maybe now go get blueberries or chocolate, whatever you like in your pancakes. Speaking of chocolate, on Sunday it is Chocolate Milk Day and Corned Beef Hash Day. I don't know if those two things go together, but definitely Scarf Day will be needed in Fargo.
Oh, it is a lovely day, especially in the tropics. Look. Post-tropical. Everything's post-tropical. For the first time since early September 7th to be exact, there are no active tropical systems out there or ones that we're worried about, at least in the near future. Isn't that nice? You wake up tomorrow morning, you go look at NHC's page, and you won't have anything out there, all right? Because these are post-tropical at this point. But does that mean we're done? No. We have to go to November 30th, right? As you know, in the Atlantic tropical season here. But as we look from now and beyond, you'll notice, of course, Teddy moving away. It's a big North Atlantic low now heading up in toward Greenland, okay? Beta will continue to soak parts of the south, and we will continue to watch an area in the Western Caribbean. As a matter of fact, so is NOAA. This is the time of the year where we kind of go back to where we started, right, in June. So this area becomes a hotbed. You still have those strong easterly trade winds. Sometimes a cold front comes down, so that's kind of a west wind there. Yeah, the air converges down in the western parts of the Caribbean. So let's keep an eye on that, certainly as we head into late September and into early October. Still 37% of the season left. When you look at the graph, you'll notice that we have a little spike there in October. So we may not be done. We'll see. All right, Beta, of course, making a big impact on the Houston metro area, especially in Pearland. Look at this, close to 14 inches of rain fallen in a 3-day period, resulting in flooding. And as you can see, pretty much as far as the eye can see, the heavy rain submerged highways. Water was as high as construction signs, prompting police and fire and rescue to make at least, I'm talking about at least 100 water rescues with motorists stranded in cars. Joining us live from Houston this morning is Justin Michaels as the water recedes from yesterday's flooding. And Justin, it was interesting in your last shot as you were throwing it back to the studio, the vehicles that were trying to come into the floodwaters again after looking at vehicles that had been flooded out. Help me with that.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anybody can help you, me, or even them trying to reason with that one because it doesn't make any sense. I know we've got our drone up. Charles Peak has that sucker up. Charles, take it for a spin out there just to give people an idea of what's going on. I mean, this guy's driving through. I mean, I wouldn't even drive through that kind of water, even in a truck, because remember, folks, the thing that people oftentimes forget, and it's not difficult to do it, you see water, but you don't know the state of the road underneath that water. There could be a manhole cover missing. The road could be compromised. That could be a gully in there where the road may have washed away and people get their cars stuck in that kind of thing. It really is a dangerous thing to do. And here goes another one. It just is not the right decision because you don't know the conditions under there. But nonetheless, there they go. And here comes another one actually coming through, going around the cars that are all stalled out. I mean, here you go. You can document this for poor decision making. Merriam-Webster, I hope you're watching, put this video on the digital version of your dictionary because it's just not the right thing to do. It's very dangerous. You can get yourself in danger. You can get rescuers in danger who need to come and get you. Steph, it's just not the right thing to do. The good news is, Steph, though, the rain has stopped. Even that mist we were having all morning seems to have come to an end. Let's hope it stays that way, and these waters can find their way into the drains. Steph, into you.
Yeah, the good news is the water is exiting that area, Justin, so we're not going to have to deal with any more of those tropical downpours. Unfortunately, we do see the potential for some flooding rains into the south. It's not going to be as bad. You know, we saw over 15 inches here in and around the Houston area. All of this is more going to be 3 to 5. Maybe someone will exceed that, but it's moving. Now, it is moving slowly, but it's moving. And because it's moving slowly, we do have those flash flood warnings here on the border of Texas and Louisiana. What we do not want to see right now in and around Lake Charles. In fact, from the coast all the way to Lake Charles, this whole area just crushed by Hurricane Laura, which made landfall August 27th. Baton Rouge, you're seeing more rain coming up. Another flash flood warning. So we will see areas of that heavy rain, and we're seeing it also as we look up here right on the border of Arkansas over into Mississippi as well along the Tennessee River Valley. So there is that potential through tomorrow morning for the flooding to occur as this slowly winds down and moves eastbound. Rain, clouds, it's going to be moving, so that's the good news, but it's not super fast. We're going to be dealing with this all the way through Friday. So that just tells you how long it's taking. I mean, you could see a whole weather system go from the west coast to the east coast in 3 days, and this is going to go just through the south in that same amount of time. So, Jen, 3 to 5 inches, I mean, you're talking a month's worth in a few days.
It's going to add up. The wettest spot today is going to be in Mississippi. We go to the heart and soul of the Delta, Greenville, Mississippi. 3.3 inches of rainfall today. Boy, that is a soaker. There's a new spot for coldest today, Big Piney, Wyoming, 23 degrees, named for the Big Piney Creek, which is named for all the big pine trees that we have in the area. All right, stay warm out there. It's a day to cool down in Needles again.
Get your daily dose of everything weather.
Wow! Boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
Weather Today from the Weather Channel. New episodes every day, only on Quibi.
Okay, guys, this day starting out beautiful in Blue Ridge, Georgia here. Look at this. Little lake smoke. Of course, that water temperature is still about 75 degrees, which, by the way, has cooled about 7 degrees in the last 7 days because of the colder temperatures. And temperatures, though, in the air are about 50 degrees. So you have that differential creating that gorgeous lake smoke. A few high clouds off in the distance. And you got the whole lake to yourself at this time of the year. Now to Omaha, Nebraska. You have a nice day on tap for you. This hump day starting out a little on the cloudy side as you go through the day, but blue sky will be more visible. And again, when I say on the cloudy side, I mean like way off in the distance, maybe a little cloudy here, but it's actually perfect in Omaha as well. All right, traveling in some not so nice spots. As we look at the forecast in Omaha, that's fine. You know what, Jen? You don't have to worry about the windshield wipers at all. But in Arkansas, in Mississippi, in Tennessee, that's a different story.
Yeah, it's nonstop. You're going to be wishing that you replaced your wiper blades or you had Rain-X or something on your windshield. Yeah. Because look at this rain. This is the I-20 ride. As you make your way from Shreveport to Jackson, there is very little stretch of this that it's not pouring rainfall. The rain has been so heavy. There's some roads impacted here into eastern Arkansas. A couple communities dealing with closed roads there because of the heavy rainfall. And we're going to have more of it. I-20, obviously, a road to watch. By later on this afternoon and certainly by this evening, Jackson and Mississippi, we get inundated with rainfall. They'll time it out. This morning, not so bad. Couple of showers come through about lunchtime. Here comes the bigger rain by this evening. Look at 8, 9 o'clock tonight. It is just dumping rainfall. This is the kind of rain where you have to slow down. You think, oh no, my car can take it. I can drive highway speed in the rainfall like this. Not that kind of rainfall. Now, in the morning, we'll still have some showers lingering, though the bulk of it does fall overnight, which will help out for travelers. We also have some rain coming down now east of where that flash flood warning is. Thankfully, this line has been on the move, not just staying put, but of course, we'll keep an eye on it. Steph.
Space companies like SpaceX are sending astronauts to the International Space Station. Since that's happening, it's easy to imagine how one day civilian travelers will be heading into space on a regular basis. And retired NASA astronaut Terry Virts wants you to be prepared. In his new book, How to Astronaut, I love that title, How to Astronaut, an insider's guide to leaving planet Earth. There are short essays that will get you ready for space in a humorous way. So Colonel Terry Virts is joining us live this morning. Colonel, thanks for being with us. What inspired you to write this book? Are you hoping it's basically a training manual for civilians who want to go to space?
Well, it's something fun. You know, it's definitely not a memoir. There's lots of those. I just wanted to write something fun to bring space to everybody. It's not a technical manual at all. It's something for men and women. It's something for old and young. And I just wanted to have people two things, laugh and say, wow, that was my goal.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the things you mentioned in the book. What kind of survival training do you guys have to go through and why? We're talking like outdoor survival, bears, deserts, and whatnot. Why does an astronaut have to go through that?
Right. Well, I had done that in the Air Force because in case you get shot down, you have to survive and go through prisoner of war camps. So I thought I was done after I did that. And then I did a project with the French Air Force and I had to do that. And then when I got to NASA, we had to do it with our fellow astronauts because a lot of them hadn't been through the military training in case you ejected out of a T-38. And then I thought I was done and I had to do it again. There's a program called Knowles. And I went up to Alaska and did this kayaking program, which was awesome and beautiful. But the goal is to try and make you as miserable as possible so that when you're in space, you can understand how to survive a tough situation, maybe something you're not enjoying, and get along with your crewmates in these psychologically tough times. So I thought I was done once when I was 18 years old in the Air Force, and I ended up doing it lots more times, and I wrote a chapter about that.
You're a pro now. Now, you've spent 200 days in space on an expedition, the fourth longest continuous NASA space mission. Do you guys actually pack anything, or is it all done for you? Or can you bring trinkets or your own clothes?
Yeah, so most of it's done by a team here in Houston and in Moscow, and they pack all of our stuff. But they give on the Soyuz, which I flew on last, they give you about 1.5 kilograms, a little bag like this, and you can stuff, jewelry for your family or pictures. And I had about 1 kilogram. And as I was going out to the rocket, I told my trainer, the Russian trainer who had trained me for the Soyuz, I said, I got 0.5 kilogram left. So he reached down, he took off his watch and gave it to me and stuffed it in there. And so I brought his watch up for his new baby. He just had a baby.
Oh, that's super cool. Now, do you guys do laundry in space?
No, the way we do laundry is we throw it away. And so that's the problem is water. So, I got a water bottle here. That's probably $20,000, $30,000, maybe $40,000 to launch it into space. So the price of getting stuff into space is pretty high and it's going up. The latest contract NASA signed was 50% higher. So it's just too expensive to do laundry. It's cheaper just to fly a new T-shirt than it is wash it.
Okay, we have about 30 seconds. Everyone here wants to know if someone does pass, what do you guys do with the body?
Well, you have to read the book. I wrote a chapter about that. There's different things you can do. You could bring it back to Earth. You could do a burial at sea, float it out into space. It's something, hopefully, thank God it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't. But if we keep on flying in space for decades and centuries to come, eventually something like that will happen.
Colonel Wirtz, we have so many more questions, but we have a whole book that's going to answer all those, and we really appreciate you coming on. His new book, How to Astronaut. Can't wait to read it.
We are the Thrivers.
Of big wrecks and wild weather. Don't miss Heavy Rescue right here on the Weather Channel.
Poor decision-making live on AMHQ, driving through floodwaters regardless of the size of your vehicle, folks. This is a bad idea. This person is coming through slowly, so a little bit of smarts there, but still driving through floodwaters is not the right thing to do, and then the person behind them is driving way too fast. Again, we can't say it enough, turn around, don't drown. We say it for a reason because people do drown. This is the #1 way people do it. They drive through floodwaters, they can't get out, they don't make it out alive. So here we are dealing with the aftermath of Beta. That's what this is right now. Had about 14 inches of rain in the greater Houston area because of Beta. Comparing that to Harvey, it's almost inconsequential, but look how much 14 inches did. Flooded out streets downtown, flooded out neighborhoods. In fact, some homes have water in them. Definitely the 14 inches from Beta compared to, let's say, the 5 feet in Beaumont, Texas of rain, Jim, is no comparison, but still Houston, man, I'll tell you what, I mean, even 14 inches caused a heap of trouble here. Jim, into you.
Absolutely. It's a different kind of flood. Literally within a week, we had surge flooding, which is what happened in Pensacola, and freshwater flooding, which is what we're looking at. And Justin, it's interesting. You may not be able to see the drone footage that Charles is shooting at the same time, but there are some vehicles that are turning around. So they must be hear you screaming at them. All right, so let's talk about what's left of Beta here. As it's sitting right near Liberty, Texas, which is east of Houston, west of Beaumont, kind of west of Louisiana. But you can see this huge slug of moisture, which is coming all the way up into Tennessee, into southern Kentucky for that matter, and another band of rain, which is kind of closing in on Baton Rouge, where we've gotten flash flood warnings out in both of these locations. This is still deep tropical moisture. It is still being pulled to the north and still being squeezed out with rainfall rates at 1 to 3 inches an hour. So the largest area we've been watching is still going on here, and the eastern push of this is not very fast at all. So Beauregard, Calcasieu, Vernon Parish, these are all areas, remember, that were very hard hit by Laura in terms of tree damage. We just had a whole package on that and the tremendous losses to the timber industry in the state of Louisiana. They're getting soaked right now. So you can see this rain footprint, which is going to go up in through Mississippi, Alabama, North Georgia, eastern Tennessee, and southern Appalachia, where we will get less and less rain the farther northeast we go. But lots of rainfall here coming for the next couple of days in these areas. So post-tropical storm Teddy, it's a big one. The wind field with these, the tropical entities that's very close to the eye, well, it's spread out. Now it's well away from the eye. It's about 1,000 miles wide when you look at it. So an incredible size storm, a typical post-tropical cyclone in the North Atlantic in the late season, in the late part of the season. But we're all post-tropical everywhere. And that's kind of cool to see how you wake up tomorrow morning on NBC's map. Maybe even later on this afternoon, you won't see anything out there. All right, but that doesn't mean we won't have anything. All right, so we'll keep an eye on what happens with a little disturbance, which is going to come in Cuba and make its way off in toward the Gulf. None of the models do anything with that. There's another front here by the time we get to October 1st. But will there be something here in the Western Caribbean? Because this is the time of the year where we start looking toward that way, kind of like we do in the first part of the season. Time will tell. Steph.
Well, today is the first full day of fall, and look at this blaze of brilliant. I love this. In northern Vermont, look at the clouds and the colors. I mean, having that white, I feel like makes those other colors even more it's just beautiful here. This is near Newport, very close to the Canadian border with Quebec. Leaves reaching that peak performance here, and some portions in New England. And we're going to see even more of this in the coming weeks here. Now, we want to check the fall foliage forecast in the Northeast. I think some of us here are a little bit at peak, but look at Ogden, Utah also going elevation. Breckenridge, you're also at elevation seeing those great yellow aspen colors. Every morning at 50 past the hour, we share a little weather wisdom by answering your questions. And today's question from Matthew says, what are the optimal weather factors that lead to the perfect foliage conditions? Well, meteorologist and fall foliage aficionado Jim Cantori explains the science behind leaves changing color.
Let's talk about the process here. Green leaves dominate the spring and summer because of the chlorophyll in the leaves. And that chlorophyll is produced by a process called photosynthesis. This process requires 3 things: sunlight, water, and believe it or not, carbon dioxide. Trees breathe in a lot of carbon dioxide. And those 3 things help to create the sugars that give the tree energy. All right. Now, one of the byproducts of this process is actually oxygen. 21% of the air that we breathe is actually from deciduous trees. Awesome. All right. So the calendar's going along. Here we are. May, June 21st. Everybody's, yay, it's the first day of summer. June 22nd, the tree knows that there's going to be less sunlight. So as that daylight begins to break down, so does the color in the leaves. And as it fades away, the true colors of the leaves begins to come on out. And there are 3 main pigments that make up especially a maple leaf. All right, so let's talk about this. Xanthophylls. Think of corn, yolks, and eggs. That's yellow. Carotenoids, that is the orange color. Think of carrots. And anthocyanins, think of apples. And you get combinations of these colors. Sometimes the tree will turn all 3 depending on the type of maple. But it is those colors that come out as this chlorophyll begins to break on down. And of course, the weather plays a key role in all of this. It is the warm, sunny days and the cool, crisp nights leading up to the peak time that gives us the effective breakdown of the sugar production and thus the brilliant fall colors.
Well, send us your questions on social media, tagging AMHQ or using the hashtag WeatherWisdom. We'll answer them every day at 50 past the hour. We're going to leave you now with Lauderdale by the Sea. You are perfect by the sea.
My son begged